Hello, I'm Paul Peterson. Sometimes older adults are confronted with caring for an adult child with disabilities. So what happens to that child when his or her parents become incapacitated or pass away? Today we will discuss estate planning for a child with special needs. Please stay tuned for Aging in LA. None of us know when we may die or become incapacitated. So if you are a senior and have an adult child with special needs, it is important to plan for your special needs child early, just as you would for other dependents such as minor children. Unlike most other beneficiaries, however, your special needs child may never be able to compensate for your failure to plan. A minor beneficiary without special needs can obtain more resources as he or she reaches adulthood, can work to meet essential needs. Your special needs child may not have that opportunity. Today's guest is Deidre Wachbrit, an attorney in Thousand Oaks, California, whose office focuses on family protection plans, wills, trust administration, and probate. Deidre is certified by the California Board of Legal Specialization in Estate Planning, Trust, and Probate Law. And she is a founder of the Academy of Special Needs Planners, the largest organization of special needs planning attorneys in the country. Deidre, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you,
This
Paul.
is a fascinating area of the law and of life because so many families do in fact have a special needs child somewhere in the mix.
It's true. In autism alone, Autism Speaks has found that 1 out of every 166 children has autism, and that's just one of many special needs diagnoses.
Right. I mean, we could go through the list from Down syndrome to the accident victim, and this has always placed a special burden on parents. And medical science is keeping folks alive a lot longer, including special needs children.
That's very true, and many of them will outlive their parents
Yes.
who would not have outlived their parents a few decades ago.
Right, exactly. Now, how did you get interested in a field like this?
Well, my brother has autism, and after I graduated from Stanford Law School, one of the first things I wanted to do with my degree was to help my parents and set up a special needs trust for him. So I thought that would be an easy process. I found out it wasn't.
Yes.
I spent about a year setting it up properly and then found that it was a natural area for me to practice in. I understood what these families needed and had a great sense of compassion and personal experience.
Well, and I think, compassion is really an important part. For some reason, folks still keep special needs children in the closet. It's not as bad as it used to be.
True.
But they worry about, will this attorney understand? Will this law firm know what I'm talking about when I worry about group home settings? So you have to face that with the families.
That's true. Parents come in having faced cold and uneducated social workers, caseworkers at their local help centers,
Yes.
doctors, therapists. So parents are very protective of their children, and they are cautious about the advisors they choose to trust.
Well, now let's talk about a special needs trust. What makes that distinct from other forms of trust? Things like UTMAs or UGMAs and things like that.
A special needs trust is designed to help the child retain benefits, government benefits,
Right.
like supplemental security income and perhaps most important, Medi-Cal, while still having some money for the things that make life worth living.
Yes, okay. Well, now I have often heard that if a special needs child has been trained to accept employment, that can often affect their benefits, that if they can earn too much money.
That's true. If you earn $500, you'll lose $250 in benefits. And there are all sorts of other complicated little rules that can surprise families if they don't take care.
Now, we mentioned about special needs children living past the demise of their parents. That is becoming a real big segment of the special needs population. I know I shared with you that we have one in my family and two as friends, where I find myself saying to the mother, who was the last one alive, what's going to happen to Hal? You're ill. You've told me you don't have long. What's happening to Hal? So this can be an immediate problem.
It's a wonderful problem to have. It used to be that parents who were getting on and their children were not dying would sometimes take drastic and unfortunate measures, but now parents have an alternative, which is special needs trust planning. They can set up a plan to make sure that their child will receive the same quality of care, or at least something very close to it, when the parent is no longer there to provide it.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you set up a trust for a family, how hands-on is your firm? Can you administer day-to-day issues, or is this the establishment of sort of the outer envelope?
Ideally, the family is extended, whether that's by blood or by choice through religious organizations or other parents in the, say, the Autism Society.
Right.
And so it's that extended family that will provide for the day-to-day needs of the child with special needs. The attorney has a role to play, an ongoing role to play, in making sure that the trust is administered properly and that those rules that we talked about earlier are followed. But it's really all of the family members and those that the parents trust who are going to be responsible for taking care of that child going forward.
Is there much abuse in this field? I mean, saying a trust has been established and a special needs child has now, they don't have their parents there. Is there opportunity for mischief unless this is structured correctly?
There is lots of opportunity for mischief.
Ooh, tell me a little bit about
well, without a special needs trust, if a child is left to the mercy of government resources, they can be placed in very unpleasant environments, dangerous environments, whereas with planning, there's funding there for therapists and for care managers to look in on the child and make sure that the quality of the care the child is receiving is acceptable.
Well, I noticed one of the changes that I so support, rather than these large institutional warehouses, we are now getting into smaller group homes where there really is a sense of family with these special needs children.
That's true. Developmental centers, which used to be a common place where parents were told to put their children even as soon as birth, are being phased out in California, and group homes and also semi-independent living are growing in popularity.
I really love that. You know, people say, well, this van shows up and all of these special needs kids pile out with their mops and brooms. I say, they're working.
Yes.
And they enjoy the work.
Yes.
And those are good things to have. What about ongoing training? There's a lot of state programs. I mean, generally a parent or the aunt and uncle who's really familiar will have learned about some of them, but there's got to be more than the ordinary person knows.
That's true. The Department of Education offers services through the child's early 20s.
Wow.
There are vocational training programs that are available from the state. Regional Center, which is available to many families with developmental disabilities, offers programs. And parents can ask their local attorney for programs that may be available only in their area.
I think I think the ordinary mind would think, well, the government takes care of all of this. They take care of all the services, but that doesn't help you if you don't know which door to enter, right?
That's exactly right. The services are available, and as I'm sure many of the aging clients in the audience, the aging population know, those services can be very difficult to apply for, very difficult to obtain. And if a person is at a barely functioning level, unable to prepare their own meals and take care of their own hygiene, the idea of navigating the Department of Health Services system, which administers Medi-Cal, for example, is just impossible. They will never succeed.
I've heard so many horror stories, people just tearing their hair out. Now, is there a state ombudsman or someone for this program, or an office where you, as the attorney for a structured trust, can go and say, now listen, you can't be denying benefits to this child?
Well, the benefits come from several different sources, but the two big ones are the Department of Health Services, which administers Medi-Cal, and the Social Security Administration, which administers supplemental security income and Social Security disability income. And those are the major programs that people are looking to retain.
But we have such a large and diverse state, and there is a variation, heck, just within the city of Los Angeles, which the joke is, you know, we're 27 shopping centers looking for a city. But the truth is there are lots of storefronts all around that address these special needs. Now, what about things like transportation? How do you get into those offices for a special needs child who may not drive?
The Special Needs Trust can provide resources to make it possible to buy a specially equipped van, or to hire a trustee who will hire the right services to come and pick up the child who is a beneficiary of the trust. Really, the Special Needs Trust is a substitute for all of the work that the parents are doing while they're still alive.
I see, and it provides money for, I mean, this costs money. That's part of it. Now, does this protect the assets of the family, which might ordinarily have been completely depleted by a special needs child before they even get to this decision point?
It can if the money is gifted to the child during the parent's lifetime, as in a UTMA account, which you referred to earlier, or
good old
529.
Uniform Trust to Minors Act.
Yes, transfers.
Or is it transfer? Uniform
transfers,
transfer.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that one messed up with UGMA.
Which is actually the same sort of account. It's just a different name.
Now, in both cases, and I always tell our audience, make sure you're sitting with pencil and paper. You need to have this information, or at least know where to access it, because a special needs child can develop overnight. That kid you think is independent gets in a motorcycle accident at age 25 when you think you're going to retire, and uh-oh, you got a special needs child.
That's very true. Special needs planning is not just about estate planning, planning for your own incapacity or demise. It's also planning around settlements. People are injured every day and receive substantial settlements, but those settlements, while they look like a lot of money, can disappear in a heartbeat if a single serious medical condition arises.
Exactly. I mean, when a heart attack can cost you $500,000. I mean, please.
Yes.
And special needs, we're talking, what, $25,000 for a specialty van, perhaps, or therapies if there is a rehabilitation of the prospect of that. Hugely expensive.
And it has to last for a person's entire lifetime, which increasingly is becoming the average life expectancy.
Well, it's a fascinating field, and you know, kudos to you for getting involved with this. And I realize there's a personal part, but as a puzzle, okay, just as a puzzle, it's got to be fascinating to figure out how best to structure this for the individual family.
It is, and the most interesting part, the most challenging part, is not the government benefits, which of course we attorneys have to stay on top of and be able to explain to our clients and assist our clients in obtaining. But it's fitting the pieces of the family and the community together so that the Special Needs Trust really works. Because if the money is just sitting there and not being used and not being supervised, the trust is not doing its job.
Right. Yeah, it's not just the trust. It ought to be used efficiently and appropriately. I can see this. And every family's different as well, I'm sure, depending on the illness or the disability. It's time for a short break. So when we come back, we will continue our discussion on seniors providing for children with special needs. We'll be right back.
You voted for it, we built it. The Department of Public Works Bureau of Engineering promised to improve, renovate, expand, or construct 32 libraries. On time and under budget, we delivered 36.
Need a recycling center? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall. Graffiti removal? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. Our topic today, estate planning for children with special needs. Our guest is Deidre Wachbrit, an attorney in Thousand Oaks, California, whose office focuses on family protection plans, wills, trust administration, and probate. Again, Deidre, thank you for joining us. We were talking about the joy of actually structuring these things, but for you particularly, you're in for the long haul because the child you structured the trust for may be 30 now, have to be around 60, another 30, 40 years.
It's true, not only as an attorney for my clients, but as a sister for my brother. The siblings are often the best advocates for a child with special needs. And so making sure that the estate plan doesn't alienate the siblings is a big part of special needs planning.
Well, we all know the burden that a special needs child does place on a family, and often unremarked is the effect on siblings who may feel resentful or envious, or why are so many family resources going to this person when, you know, I want to buy a house. How do you handle that? Is there professional help on hand where you can actually say, time for the group to sit down with a professional?
Well, private counseling is always available, but what I advise clients to do is to really think about whether they're going to make unequal distributions amongst their children.
Wow.
Although the child with special needs may have greater needs, if unequal distributions are going to alienate that child's best advocates, I don't advise it. A nice alternative to unequal distributions is life insurance. So many families use life insurance to supplement their resources and fund the special needs trust.
Well, now special needs children, am I assuming that an insurance policy on the child or for their caregivers?
An insurance policy on the parents.
On the parents,
so
okay.
that when the parents are gone, there's money in the special needs trust.
Okay, yeah. Well, where does the money come from? Is this generally the acquisition of a lifetime, you know, the house and such stocks and bonds as you might have?
Absolutely. It's the family's resources, which often are not as substantial as a family in a similar demographic, because so much of their time and money is spent on therapies and interventions. So life insurance is often the necessary solution.
And time taken for the proper care of a special needs child is time away from investments and
ladder climbing.
Right, all of those things. The trust, once it's established, can it take into account these steadily escalating costs that we're all facing with medical care and the special needs child?
The trust has to have a few particular sentences in it, really just a couple. And beyond that, the parents can design the trust in almost any way they would like. And the trust should certainly be flexible enough to take account of increasing expenses and changing needs on behalf of the child. The child's needs may be very different at 18 from 50.
Well, and I'm thinking because there are so many, there's sort of a cascade of difficulties that can develop for challenged children, if you will, that are kind of predictable and well known, so almost a chart. But let's talk for a minute for our particular audience, which are seniors. So we may be addressing Grandma and Grandpa right now, whose own children have had born into their family, or it develops that there's a child with special needs. What can grandparents do in a situation like this?
Grandparents can do a lot of help or a lot of harm with their own estate planning.
Okay.
If they leave money directly to that child with special needs, which is often coming from the goodness of their heart and with the best of intentions, they can cause that child to lose not only their cash flow, their cash income each month, but that Medi-Cal, which is the child's only health insurance. So grandparents need to talk with their children about whether a special needs trust has been established, and if it has, leave any inheritances or gifts to the trust and not to the child directly.
I see. This is good advice. I'm just thinking those difficult family conversations when there's either a special needs child or death is imminent somewhere, and it's hard to gather the family around a table and have an open discussion about these issues.
Well, many grandparents are uncomfortable discussing it directly with their children.
Really?
And what those folks will do is simply create their own special needs trust within their plan for the grandchild
I
that they
see.
want to provide for.
Well, like so often, well, whether it's kinder care, grandparents raising their grandchildren, or the interventions that grandparents often have to do because their children have gone off the rails and young children are at risk, I almost always see their role as very positive. I mean, they have the age, they have the experience, generally they have the resources to make this happen. Now, how do they find you? Do they just look for Deidre in the phone book? Is that how
Well,
it works?
certainly, I would be thrilled if all of the viewers gave me a call, but there is another resource for those who are outside of the area. It's called specialneedsplanners.com and specialneedsanswers.com.
I
If
see.
viewers visit that, they can find attorneys who practice in this area very comprehensively.
I got you. Well, since we're called Aging in L.A., I'll let them, dial 411.
Great.
But the professionals have to consult with you. I can just imagine the CPA who is suddenly confronted with a family where there's special needs and someone's end is easily predictable. Is that how they come to you? Would it be the professional accountant that says, I got a problem here?
It's often either the professional, which is a CPA or a financial planner or sometimes an insurance agent, or it's a friend that introduces the client to our office. These are close-knit communities, especially within each type of developmental disability or non-developmental disability, and the parents talk amongst themselves. So they tell each other who is worth trusting and who to be cautious about.
Well, I must say, I love the elevation of militancy and advocacy these days for even the most peculiar and rarefied sort of illness or trouble. Man, there are people out there saying, pay attention to this. And especially, as you said, the families have become, I guess in self-defense, the best champions for the needs.
They have become strong champions. They have a strong voice in Sacramento, and programs for the developmentally disabled are not being cut as deeply as they would have been had parents not been involved. Program cuts are something people need to be aware of, and it's another reason why the Special Needs Trust is essential. It can make up for benefits that a child may be receiving today that may not be available 15 years from now.
Right, and I do see this, and I hope you'll agree with me. This is in addition to the standard resources that are made available to special needs children. This is something to take all those rough edges off when there might be a hiccup in the road when it comes to services or income. What can derail a special needs child other than being left alone? What sort of things, in your experience, have happened to that child without the benefits of a special needs trust?
Well, being left alone, of course, is really common,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, that's...
It's very common because the special needs child is often not an attractive friend to have. Their limitations make them unable to communicate. Sometimes they can be self-focused or lack social skills, so they can't make the same sorts of friends that their parents can make for them. And if the special needs child is an only child, which is very common, if your first child is needy, you are less likely to have subsequent children, then there's really no one for them to rely on outside those in the Special Needs Trust.
Yeah, I can see that happening. It's so funny when you talk about in family counseling, where a child is in a family kind of determines the way they're raised. Are they the first child? Are they second sibling? Are they the youngest of 12? Because they each are quite different. What about an outside party to be the child's advocate in the absence of the parents? And I'm not thinking about an uncle or aunt. Sadly, too many families don't have a close relative. Is it easy to designate a person who is not related by blood as the advocate for the child?
It is becoming easier. It used to be that there were only one or two trust companies in the country who could competently handle a special needs trust. That is changing with trust companies learning more and more about how to handle these trusts, and many of the care services, the at-home care services that are available to the elderly who want to stay at home are now adding to their roster of services the ability to help a developmentally disabled person stay at home.
Deidre, what about those parents who aren't sure that their child can qualify as a special needs trust candidate?
The key decision is, will the child be self-supporting as an adult? So regardless of whether the child has received a formal diagnosis or not, if a parent is concerned that their child is going to rely on Social Security, Supplemental Security, and Medi-Cal, then that child is an appropriate candidate for a special needs trust. It can always be changed later.
And I'm assuming when they come to you, they should bring documentation to that effect, or the programs that the child's in that they want to continue.
That's certainly helpful to the attorney drafting the trust
Gotcha.
to understand where the child is and what the likely future is for that child.
Great. Sadly, our time is up for today's edition of Aging in L.A. Thanks so much to our guest, Deidre Wachbrit, an attorney specializing in family protection plans, wills, trust administration, and probate. Thank you for joining us. And now it's time for a new feature on Aging in L.A., Senior Stat Shots, where we look at statistics that pertain to senior citizens. Did you know that seniors over 65 years of age in this country hold assets of $15 trillion? Trillion with a T? Put that in perspective. The entire gross national product of the United States in the year 2007 was $14 billion. So seniors in America hold assets that are about 10 times the amount of the annual gross national product. But another statistic shows something frightening. 30% of seniors 65 and older say they don't have enough money to meet their basic living expenses. That's almost 8 million senior citizens who do not have enough money to pay the costs of basic living. And that's today's Senior Stat Shot. The Los Angeles Department of Aging produces this program with CityView, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed on the many issues that face them in everyday life, and also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens. Now, we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and ideas for future programs. So please give us a call. The number's there on your screen, area code 213-252-4088. That's 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson. For the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.